Have you ever witnessed a scene so shocking it nearly stopped your heart? Right in the middle of a family gathering where there should have been nothing but laughter and warmth? I'm Ruth Miller, 71 years old, living in Austin, Texas, and I lived through that nightmare. It was my son's birthday, a backyard barbecue with string lights, a big cake, and the whole family gathered around. I brought a chocolate cake, the kind my 6-year-old granddaughter, Lily, always loved. I could already picture her running toward me, her golden hair flying, wrapping her little arms around me and shouting, "Grandma," just like she always did. But not this time. Instead, Lily sat curled up in a corner, her head bowed, wearing a thick knit hat in the scorching June heat. A chill shot straight down my spine. Every instinct in me screamed that something was terribly, terribly wrong. When I softly called her name, Lily lifted her face, eyes swollen and red, and whispered, "Grandma, I can't take my hat off. Mommy said I look ugly." My heart cracked in two, my hand trembled as I gently reached for that tiny hat. And the moment I lifted it, I froze in horror. Her tender scalp was bare, covered in little scratches, every strand of her beautiful blonde hair was gone. Not cut by the careful hand of a stylist, but hacked away by the cold, buzzing blade of a household clipper. The ground seemed to vanish beneath me. And the cruelest part? My daughter-in-law, Kayla, strolled over with a glass of wine in her hand, smirking as she said, "Well, don't you love Lily's new look? It's trendy, Mom." A 6-year-old child turned into a joke by her own mother. That laugh, to me, it was a knife straight to the heart, and that was only the beginning of the nightmare. I clutched the little hat in my hands, my fingers trembling so hard I could barely hold it. Behind me, Lily pressed herself against my back, her tiny body shaking like a wounded bird. She wouldn't look up at the crowd. Her small hands clung to the hem of my dress, as if letting go would make the whole world collapse. My throat tightened. Tears burned my eyes, but I swallowed them back. If I broke down now, Lily would feel even weaker. She needed someone to stand for her, not a grandmother falling apart. I turned to my daughter-in-law, my voice trembling but laced with fury. "What have you done to her?" Kayla shrugged, took a slow sip of wine, and smirked. "Oh, stop overreacting. It's just hair. Texas is hot, this will keep her cool. Big deal." I went numb. The way she said just hair made my blood boil. I remembered every afternoon I'd brushed Lily's golden strands in the sunlight, every braid I'd tied for birthday parties. That hair wasn't just hair, it was her pride, her invisible crown, and now it had been ripped from her, cruelly. I clenched my fists, forcing my voice to stay steady. "Kayla, this isn't a joke. This is humiliation. Do you even know how much she cried?" Kayla rolled her eyes, still smiling. "She's a kid. She'll get over it. Somebody's got to teach her obedience. All that long hair, she never washes it right, always whining. I'm sick of it, so I solved the problem. Simple." At those words, Lily broke into sobs, burying her face against me. Rage shook through my whole body. Just then, my son Daniel walked out of the kitchen with a tray of beers. He glanced at the scene and sighed. "Mom, come on, don't blow this out of proportion. It's just hair. It'll grow back." I whipped around, stunned. "Daniel, look at your daughter. She's so terrified she can't even lift her head. And you call that nothing?" He looked away, mumbling. I thought Kayla was just trying to teach her a lesson." I gave a bitter laugh. My own son, the boy I'd raised, now standing silent beside cruelty. The disappointment rose like a lump in my throat. The air grew heavy. Relatives who'd been chatting fell silent. I saw Mr. Carter, our longtime neighbor, step forward, his eyes blazing. He shook his head and said loudly enough for everyone to hear, "I've got 3 grandkids. I'd cut out my own heart before I'd do this to them. This isn't discipline. This is cruelty." The backyard went dead quiet except for Lily's choking sobs. I looked around. No one spoke up for Kayla, but no one dared stop her either. And I knew if I didn't act, my granddaughter would go on living in fear and shame. Right then, I made my decision. I bent down, wrapped my arms around Lily and whispered, "That's enough, sweetheart. We're leaving." I stood up and led her toward the gate. Kayla's voice snapped from behind us. "Where do you think you're taking her? This is my house, my child." I stopped, turned, and let my words cut like steel. "She's my granddaughter, and I won't let anyone hurt her, not even you." The crowd froze. Lily squeezed my hand, a faint glimmer of hope flickering in her eyes. And in that moment, I knew. I had just stepped into the hardest fight of my life. I carried Lily all the way to the gate, every step feeling like fire under my feet. But just as my hand touched the latch, Kayla lunged forward, blocking the way, her eyes blazing. The wine glass in her hand shattered on the ground with a crash that echoed like a gunshot across the party. "No one is taking my child anywhere!" she shrieked, her voice sharp as a knife tearing into my ears. I held Lily tighter in my arms. She trembled like a leaf in a storm. The crowd murmured. Some stared with pity, others looked away as if afraid to get involved. I locked eyes with Kayla, my voice cold as steel. "Your child? And this is how you treat her?" Shaving the head of a 6-year-old, threatening to take her eyebrows, convincing her she's ugly. "You call that motherhood?" "No, that's abuse." Daniel rushed over, gripping his wife's shoulder. "Kayla, stop. Don't make this worse." But she jerked his hand away, fury blazing in her eyes. "Shut up! You always take your mother's side. This is my house, my rules." Rage coursed through me. I turned on Daniel, my words cutting each syllable. "Do you remember, Daniel, when you were 8? When you fell off your bike and your knee split open? You cried until you lost your voice. What did I do? I bandaged you up, held you, and told you you were brave. And now you stand here while your daughter is humiliated, shaved, threatened, and you call that parenting?" The crowd froze in silence. Only Lily's sobs filled the air. Then Mr. Carter's voice rang out from the back. "I can't stay silent. I heard that child crying from over the fence, and I saw—" He hesitated, then raised his phone for everyone to see. "My security camera recorded Kayla dragging Lily into the bathroom yesterday. You could hear her screams across the street." Kayla's face drained of color. She lunged at him, but Mr. Carter pulled the phone back. The party erupted in gasps and whispers. Some relatives turned toward me, murmuring, "God, we had no idea." I hugged Lily closer. She buried her face into my shoulder, whispering through tears, "Grandma, I don't want to stay here. I'm scared." And in that moment, I knew I had to get her out, no matter the cost. My voice rang out clear and firm. "If anyone tries to stop me, I'll call the police right here, right now. This isn't a family matter. This is child abuse." The air grew heavy. Kayla trembled. Daniel lowered his head in silence. I pushed open the gate and carried Lily away. But the nightmare wasn't over. An hour later, after I laid Lily down on my bed and wiped away her tears, the phone rang. Daniel's name lit up the screen. I hesitated, then answered. "Mom," he said, his voice cracking. "Kayla's losing it. She says she's calling the cops that you kidnapped her child. You need to bring Lily back before this gets worse." I let out a bitter laugh, my voice calm and icy. "You call protecting a child from abuse kidnapping? Then let the police come. Let them decide who's guilty." The line went quiet. I could hear Kayla screaming in the background, and Daniel sobbing. Lily tugged at my hand, whispering, "Grandma, do I have to go back?" I stroked her bare head, my heart breaking. "No, sweetheart. You're safe here." That night, I didn't sleep. Lily tossed and whimpered in her dreams, whispering, "Don't cut. Please don't." I sat by her side, tears streaming down my face, silently swearing, no matter what it takes, even if it means standing against my own son, I will protect my granddaughter. But deep down, I knew the real battle had only just begun. The next morning, as the Texas sun streamed through the window, I was still sitting there, my eyes swollen from a sleepless night. Lily curled under the blanket beside me, clutching my hand even in her dreams. Every time she flinched awake, my heart tore a little more. A 6-year-old child should be dreaming of dolls and princesses, not terrified her hair would be shaved off again. Then the doorbell rang, sharp and relentless. My heart pounded as I walked to the door. Outside stood Daniel and Kayla. Her face was pale, but her eyes burned with defiance. Daniel gripped her shoulder, his voice pleading, "Mom, open the door. We just want to talk." I stayed behind the door, my voice steady. "If you came for Lily, call the police. Until an authority is involved, I won't hand her over." Kayla slammed her fist against the door, shrieking, "You have no right. She's my daughter. I'll have you arrested for kidnapping." Lily heard her mother's voice and burst into tears, clutching me tight. "Grandma, don't let them take me." I knelt down and wrapped her close, her trembling seeping into my own body. I knew then I needed help. Immediately, I called an old friend, family attorney James Whitaker. He had been my late husband's closest friend, a father and grandfather himself. After listening in silence, James finally said, firm and certain, "Ruth, what you've described is child abuse. I'll be there right away." An hour later, James arrived with a heavy briefcase and a small camera. Daniel and Kayla were still at the gate, but James didn't flinch. He walked straight up and introduced himself. "I'm Mrs. Miller's attorney. From now on, all communication goes through me. If you keep pounding on this door, we'll call the police immediately." Kayla froze, caught off guard by how fast the tide had turned. Daniel pulled her aside, the two whispering furiously. I seized the chance to bring Lily inside. James photographed her scalp, the little scratches left by the clippers, and recorded her trembling words. "Mommy said I'm ugly. Mommy said if I cry again, she'll cut my eyebrows off. I'm scared, Grandma. I don't want to go back." James's jaw tightened. He nodded. "This is enough for an emergency petition for temporary custody. But we'll need more witnesses." Just then, the phone rang. It was Mr. Carter, our neighbor. His voice was firm. "I'll testify." My security camera caught her dragging Lily into the bathroom. The screaming echoed across the block. James glanced at me and gave the faintest smile. "Then we have everything we need." That afternoon, he drove us straight to Child Protective Services. A caseworker took one look at Lily's shaved, scarred head and frowned. "We'll open a file immediately. For now, she'll remain with you until the court decides." When I signed the paperwork, my hand shook uncontrollably. I knew the legal battle ahead would be long, but at least for now, Lily had a shield of protection. That evening, back at home, Lily sat on the bed, hugging her worn-out doll. Her eyes still carried fear when she looked at me. "Grandma, will I have to see Mommy again?" I brushed her cheek gently. "Yes, but only with adults there. No one will ever be allowed to hurt you again." Her eyes softened with the faintest spark of hope. She nodded, whispering, "Grandma, I trust you." And in that fragile whisper, I realized that trust was the greatest responsibility of my life, and I swore I would never betray it. The court date came faster than I expected. For a week straight, I barely slept. Lily had begun to eat better, to rest a little more peacefully, but every time she heard a knock at the door or the sound of a strange car outside, she clung to me in terror, as if someone might drag her away. I knew that fear would haunt her for a long time. That morning, the Travis County Courthouse was packed. The air was thick, suffocating with tension. I held Lily's hand. She wore a pale pink dress I'd bought the day before. Her hair was still cropped short, but little tufts were beginning to grow back. Across the courtroom, Kayla sat beside Daniel. Her face looked gaunt, but her eyes still flashed with arrogance. Their attorney shuffled papers like a soldier preparing for war. The judge, an older man with silver hair and a deep, steady voice, opened the hearing. "We are here today to consider an emergency petition regarding 6-year-old Lily Miller. This court's sole purpose is to ensure the best interests of the child." My heart pounded in my chest. James, my attorney, rose first. He laid out the case with sharp precision. Photographs of Lily's scratched scalp, her trembling testimony, security footage from Mr. Carter's home, and records from the school nurse who had heard Lily confide in whispers. Each piece of evidence cut into the silence like a blade. Then Kayla's attorney stood. He argued that she had simply lost control in the heat of the moment, that it was a misguided form of discipline, but not malicious. He produced medical documents claiming Kayla had been diagnosed with intermittent explosive disorder, was in therapy, and on medication. He insisted that a haircut causes no permanent harm, and that keeping the family intact is in the child's best interest. I bit my lip until it bled. Family? What kind of family forces a child to beg not to have her eyebrows cut off? The judge nodded, then called the first witness. Mr. Carter stepped up, his voice firm. I saw Lily cower and tremble like she was being tortured. My cameras recorded her screaming, begging for it to stop. I've lived over 60 years. I know the difference between discipline and cruelty. The courtroom stirred with murmurs. Kayla flushed crimson, gripping her chair. Daniel kept his head down, eyes wet. Finally, the judge ordered a private session with Lily. Only a few of us were allowed in. She sat in a swivel chair, her small legs dangling, voice barely above a whisper. "I don't want to go home. I'm scared Mommy will be mad again. I only sleep at Grandma's. No nightmares there." She paused, tears streaking her cheeks. I don't want anyone cutting things off my face ever again. My heart shattered. The judge studied her for a long moment, then gave a solemn nod. When the session reopened, the courtroom went silent. You could hear the soft tap of the judge's pen against the bench. His words came slow, heavy with gravity. This court acknowledges the parents' efforts at therapy. However, the evidence shows repeated abusive behavior. This cannot be dismissed as a one-time lapse. Therefore, the court grants temporary custody to Mrs. Ruth Miller for 6 months. During this period, the parents may have supervised visitation only and must continue anger management therapy and attend parenting classes. The gavel struck, echoing through the chamber. I exhaled, tears streaming down my face, relief and sorrow tangled together. Daniel lifted his eyes toward me, filled with regret. Kayla broke down, sobbing into her hands. I squeezed Lily's hand. She looked up at me and gave the faintest smile, fragile, but the first real smile I'd seen in weeks. I knew her journey toward healing had only just begun, but at least today, justice had chosen to stand with the truth. After the trial, I thought things might finally calm down, but the truth was far more complicated. 6 months of temporary custody might sound long, yet each day with Lily felt like walking a tightrope. One strong gust could send everything crashing down. In those first weeks, Lily began to change, little by little. She ate, she slept. The midnight terrors came less often, but the moment she heard a phone ring, a knock at the door, or even the shadow of someone passing the window, she clutched my hand, whispering, "Is Mommy here?" Each time, my heart cracked. I knew those fears would not fade easily. One evening, as I was cooking dinner, the phone rang. It was Daniel. His voice broke with emotion. "Mom, I know I was wrong, but Kayla, she's different now. Can't you give her more time with Lily?" I stayed silent. The judge's words rang in my ears, supervised visitation only. Finally, I answered slowly. "Daniel, chances don't come from words. They come from actions and from Lily's own trust. She isn't ready, and I can't gamble with her safety." On the other end, I heard him sigh, swallowing his grief. My heart ached. He was still my son, but between us now stood a wall I wasn't sure could ever be torn down. A week later came the first supervised visit at the community center. Lily gripped my hand so tight it left marks. When she saw Kayla, she recoiled, hiding behind me. Kayla looked changed, thinner, restless, her hands twisting nervously as though fighting a storm inside. She bent down, whispering, "Lily, Mommy's sorry." Lily shook, burying her face in my back. The social worker urged me to let Lily decide. I crouched down, holding her shoulders gently. "Sweetheart, you don't have to do anything you don't want to." Lily peeked out at her mother, then shook her head. The room went still. Kayla broke down, sobs pouring out uncontrollably. I watched, torn between anger and sorrow. This was the woman who had scarred my granddaughter, yet she was also a mother crushed beneath her own mistakes. Afterward, the social worker pulled me aside. "Mrs. Miller, it's clear Lily is still traumatized, but it's also true that Kayla has been consistent in her therapy. This will be a long process. The next visits will be critical." I nodded, though unease twisted in my gut. Another night, as I tucked Lily into bed, an anonymous text lit up my phone. "You're destroying my family. You'll regret this." My hand shook. I didn't know if it was Kayla or someone from her side of the family, but one thing was certain. This fight wasn't over. The next day, I showed James. He frowned. "This may be an attempt at intimidation. Save every message. If it escalates, we'll take it to the authorities." From then on, I kept everything documented. I installed small cameras around my home. To protect Lily, I had to be ready for anything. One morning, while dropping Lily at school, her teacher pulled me aside, face drawn. "Mrs. Miller, Lily drew a picture today." She drew herself bald, standing between two women, one holding a knife, the other in a red dress protecting her. She said, "That's Mommy and Grandma. I think she's still deeply traumatized." My blood ran cold. I realized then the wounds carved into Lily's heart went far deeper than what anyone could see. And healing them would take a long, uncertain road, a road full of turns we couldn't yet imagine. The final days of the 6-month guardianship crept by under a constant cloud of worry. I watched Lily grow a little each day, her hair slowly sprouting back, rare smiles beginning to return to her small face. But I also knew the day of reckoning was near. The court would decide, would Lily remain with me or be sent back to her parents? The night before the final hearing, I barely slept. Lily lay beside me, her tiny fingers tangled around mine, whispering in her dreams, "Grandma, don't let me go." My heart twisted painfully. I knew that by morning, the judge's words could change our lives forever. Once again, the Travis County courtroom was packed. Kayla appeared looking different, neat, her hair tied back, her eyes no longer blazing with anger but holding something cautious, almost timid. Daniel sat beside her, exhausted, but with a determined look in his eyes. Their attorney spoke first, presenting evidence. Kayla had attended therapy consistently, taken her prescribed medication, completed a parenting course, and submitted certificates from doctors. I sat there holding Lily, listening to every word with a heavy heart. I couldn't deny that Kayla was trying, but could anyone truly promise that her rage would never erupt again? Then, James, my attorney, presented the psychologist's report. Lily was still traumatized. The nightmares, the drawings she made, the fear she felt whenever she heard her mother's name. James spoke slowly, deliberately. A child is only safe when she feels safe. And right now, Lily feels safe only with her grandmother. The judge sat silently for a long time. The courtroom was so quiet you could hear the faint tapping of his pen. Finally, he turned to Lily, his voice gentle. "Lily, is there anything you'd like to say to the court?" Everyone held their breath. Lily stepped forward shyly, her eyes glistening with tears. Her small voice carried across the room and into everyone's hearts. "I want to stay with Grandma, because I don't have bad dreams there. I want to see Daddy, and Mommy too. But I'm scared Mommy will yell at me. I just want Mommy to be kind." A wave of sobbing broke out. Kayla buried her face in her hands, crying uncontrollably. Daniel placed a trembling hand on her shoulder, his own eyes red. The judge nodded and spoke with solemn weight. "This court acknowledges the mother's efforts at treatment, but the evidence shows a repeated pattern of abuse. This cannot be dismissed as a single mistake. Therefore, the court extends guardianship to Mrs. Ruth Miller for 1 year. The parents may continue supervised visitation, and only when a licensed psychologist certifies safety will the court consider any change. In addition, both parents must remain in therapy, provide monthly progress reports to Child Protective Services, and complete ongoing parenting education." The gavel struck, echoing through the chamber. Relief and grief flooded through me, tears streaming down my face. Lily ran into my arms, clutching me tightly, unwilling to let go. In that moment, I knew I had kept my promise to protect her with everything I had. But deep down, I also understood this wasn't just my story, or Lily's. It was a wake-up call for anyone who confuses discipline with abuse, teaching with humiliation. Children do not need fear to grow. They need love and patience. Hair can grow back, but wounds in the soul, if left unhealed, can last a lifetime. That night, as I tucked Lily into bed, she whispered, "Grandma, my hair is growing. Can you braid it again, like before?" I nodded, smiling through tears. For her, it was just a braid. But for me, it was a symbol of healing, of hope. And if you're watching this video, I ask you, what would you do if you saw a child being treated unfairly? Don't stay silent. Don't look away. One small action, a call, a word, a hand raised could save a childhood. Please share this video so more people understand the difference between discipline and abuse. And if you believe children deserve love and protection, hit that subscribe button and join us in spreading stories that may be full of tears but are also full of hope.